Okay. So in this course, so this is the broad syllabus of this course. This is the applied electronics and instrumentation, and this is mainly we are dealing with in this course. We will be dealing with some basic part of the applied electronics and a small part of the instrumentation we are going to be covering in this curriculum. So here mainly we are going to study the semiconductors. Now you see in the your screen. So the semiconductors. So we have to read this PN junctions. So I think all of you or many of you, I think all of you or many of you have studied this semiconductors and your PN junctions in your class 2 on your HS syllabus, I think, or some part in your physics course in this program of BTech. So we are going to cover some part of that we have to going to cover these PN junctions. Then we have to study the VI characteristics. I think most of you know the VI characteristics of PN junctions. So after covering the PN junctions, then we are going to start this diode. So very basic or very we can say primitive kind of device that have that we have obtained, that is called the diode, that is called the PN junction diode. And we will see what are the different applications of this PN junction diode as a circuit element. What are the circuit elements? So we can see that there are different circuit elements. That means we will going to study the rectifier, clipper. So it will be your clamper. Okay, so here it is written damper. It is not a damper, it is a clamper. CLAMPER, clamper. Okay. Then we have some voltage multiplier, capacitive filter. So we are going to study this all these things. So under this rectifier, we are going to get some information about this half-wave rectifier, full-wave rectifier, bridge rectifier, something like that. And we can see, I think some of you have studied the filter earlier. Filter, so we have some filter arrangement we are going to study. That is called that. In this case, we are going to study the capacitive filter, inductive filter, all of this kind. And finally, we are going to get some idea about the OR and AND logic. So this is called the Boolean logic. So how we can see how to get the OR gate and AND gate. So this OR and AND, this gives us the Boolean logic. So we are going to get this digital part or digital electronics part, and how to devise or how to fabricate this OR and AND gate by using this PN junction diode. We are going to see. So after getting all this application, next we are going to be getting the bipolar junction transistor. This is also called the BJT. Then we are going to see all the aspect of BJT, the operating points, the classifications of the amplifier, that is the type A, type B, and type C. And after that, we will see the various methods of biasing, that is the fixed bias, self bias, and potential divider bias. These things we are going to cover. Then we are going to get the different biasing circuit. That means the common base configuration, common emitter configuration, common collector configuration. We are going to study. Then we are going to get some another topic that is called the differential amplifier. So again, we are going to get the differential amplifier by using these transistors. Transistors means bipolar junction transistors. Then we are going to get some idea about the operational amplifier. Operational amplifier has been written in terms of OPAMP. So this OPAMP is the abbreviation of operational amplifier. And we are going to get the characteristics, linear and non-linear application of op-amp. So op-amp mainly is used for adding or subtracting or integrating or differentiating At the same time, it can be used by differential amplifier, instrumentation amplifier, oscillator, and the active rectifier. After we have some part of this Zener diode and some part of this current limiting circuit. So op amp can be used as a voltage regulator. We are trying to see this how this op amp is going to be acting as a voltage regulator, or it will be used as a voltage regulation. Then we have some basic theorem of Boolean algebra. That means we have started the Boolean algebra by fabrication of this OR and AND gate. So now we have to going to cover the details of the Boolean algebra. So Boolean algebra means we have to get the effect of OR gate, AND gate, and another gate is there that is called the NAND gate. And beside this OR, AND, and NAND, we have the exclusive OR gate, we have the exclusive NOR gate. So we are going to study all these things. Then we have some combinational logic circuit. Combinational logic circuit, that means we have the basic gates. SOP rule. SOP rules means sum of product rule, and we have some Carnot map. So that has been given by in terms of K map. So it is the full form is Carnot map. Karnaugh, Carnot map. So up to this is the applied electronics part. Then we have some part of this one that is called the instrumentation, that is the binary ladder DA converter. So we have to study the digital to analog converter, that is called this is the type one of this type is binary ladder type DA converter. Then we have some successive approximation AD converter. Successive approximation AD converter means it is the analog to digital converter. That is called the successive approximation type analog converter, analog to digital converter. Then we have some generalized instrumentation, measurement of displacement. This is the kind of theory, and temperature, velocity, force, pressure using potentiometer. We have some resistance thermometer. So it will be a thermometer. So spelling is not correct here over here. We have some thermocouple. Then we have Barden tube, LVDT, and strain gauge. These are all of the instrumentation part or instruments part, where we are mainly covering the this transducer. Transducer means we can convert the particular form of energy to another form of energy. That means in one of the example we can say, this type of example we can say, if we see the microphone, then we are converting the voice message or the voice signal into electrical signal. Okay, so if you see the microphone, so microphone has the diaphragm, and it is going to convert the voice signal to electrical signal. So this is a kind of application where we are using the transducer. Transducer is there to convert the one form of energy to another form of energy. Okay, so these things we are going to cover in our syllabus. We are going to try to cover. I don't know how much we can cover or not. So we are trying to get whatever we can do, and we will trying to get or trying to cover as much as possible. So after getting some idea, so now in the earlier semesters we have a one course of this thing, that is the electrical machine and power utilization. All of you have studied, and we have get some basic idea of this electrical engineering, and behind that beside that we have to get the recap of these earlier chapters or earlier things what we have to do. That means I will be requesting, or I am going to request all of you, please go through the Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, superposition theorem, if you because we need to get the help of all those theorem in this present scenario. So for getting the idea of the semiconductor, if you are getting the thing over there, can you tell me whether the slide has been changed to your part or not? Please give a voice response. Slide change হয়েছে তোমাদের কাছে?
No sir, the slide is not changing.
No sir. Okay, just hold on. Now, are you getting the next slide?
Yes, sir.
4.3.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So now, for getting the first part, that is the semiconductor part. So basically, we have to understand what is the energy band. So here in this slide, you can get some idea about the energy band. So so I will ask all of you to go some basic recap of this chemistry part of your class 2, where we have studied the Bohr model of or atomic this numbers, all these things. So in energy band, what we are doing, we are getting the different energy level of any atom. And now here you can see this is the nucleus part, and here we are getting the different level of energy level, and that has been plotted in this graph. And here you can see in figure 4.32, this is the first energy level, this is the second energy level, and this is the third energy level. And we can see the range of energies possessed by an electron in a solid is known as the energy band. So now in a solid means, that means in case of a germanium or silicon. So this is the basic example of semiconductor material. So now if you see the germanium and silicon, so this is the solid, and you can see that there are different energy level. So now in case of an energy band diagram, if you see the figure number 3 in an energy band diagram, now you can see this is the first band energy, this is the second band, and this is the third band energy. And now you can see the orbit, in each orbit of an atom has a single energy. And now since there are million of first orbit electrons and the slightly different energy levels from a band is called the first energy band. These electrons in first orbit can have an energy range in this band. Similarly, second orbit electrons from the second energy band, and so on. So how this energy is very essential for defining this semiconductor, because we know that in a semiconductor conductor, or in a conductor or any insulator, we are mainly concerning about two types of energy band. One is called the valence band, another is called the conduction band. So now if you go to the next slide, so this is the conduction band, and now we are very much interested on this two band, that is called the conduction band and the valence band. So out of just to hold on out of all this energy band, we are very much interested on this conduction band and the valence band, because here we can see that in case of a semiconductor, or in case of a conductor or insulator, they can be differentiated from each other based on the description of this energy band. Because you can see the conduction band means there is a plenty of electrons are there in this band. If it is available, then we can say the solid material is simply a conductor. But in case of a insulator, what we are seeing or what we are observing, that the number of free electrons in the conduction band is nearly, or it is simply is equal to 0. That means there is no free electrons is available in this conduction band. But in case of a if you see the semiconductor, then you see in the semiconductor what is happening. The energy, the distance between this valence band and the conduction band is not so much, or not something like that. That means whatever we can see in case of a insulator. In case of a insulator, the energy, the band gap, that means the band gap means the gap between the valence band and conduction band, is nearly equal to 15 electron volt. So what is this electron volt? 15 electron volt means 1 electron volt is equal to your 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. So you can note it down properly. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. So the gap between this conduction band and valence band in case of a pure insulator is not less than 15 electron volt. But in the case of a, if you see in the case of a pure conductor, there is a generally overlapping of this valence band and the conduction band. What it is happening? But in case of a semiconductor, what is happening? From this energy band description, we can see, we'll see in the next slide that the band gap, that means the energy band gap between this conduction band and valence band is nearly 1 electron volt. It may be the less than 1 electron volt, or it may be the slightly above 1 electron volt. So now from this energy band description or energy band information, we can ascertain what is what. That means what is insulator, what is conductor, and what is semiconductor. Now this has been written over there, important energy band in a solid, and the gap between these two bands is generally called the forbidden energy gap. So what is forbidden energy gap? If you see the definition over there, the separation between conduction band and the valence band on the energy level diagram is known as the forbidden energy gap. That means this is the separation between this conduction band and the valence band. Now if you see the next slide, so now we are getting some information about insulator, conductor, and the semiconductor. Because we are going to study, our main concern is that we are going to study the semiconductor. So before going in detail into semiconductor, we have to know what is the difference between the semiconductor, conductor, and the insulator. So that's why I am going in detail with that. So in the insulator, now you see in the figure, so this figure, this is the high voltage transmission line, and you can see in the roadside when you are going to your home or something like that, we have a huge the height of tower is there beside this in this agricultural field, and we can see some this black or this gray type or this disc type gray colored disc type of these materials are shown, or it has been we can observe. So these are called the insulator. So in the insulator, what is happening? I have told you earlier, this the band gap between the conduction band and the valence band is very large, and this is near about 15 electron volt. Now, when there is a huge amount of this thing, that means the energy gap, that means there is a very less possibilities. Now you see very less possibilities to jump from valence band to conduction band. What it will be jumping? The free electrons. So it is very hard for these free electrons, if it is available in the valence band, to jump into the conduction band. So as we know that if there is a no provision of any free electrons in the conduction band, then we can see that, or we can explain, or then we can conclude that the material is pure insulator. So in that case when the energy band from this energy band description, if the forbidden energy gap is greater than 15 electron volt or near about 15 electron volt, then we can see there is a less possibilities to jump the free electrons from the valence band to the conduction band. Okay. Now in case of a conductor, what is happening? Now you can see that this is the band energy description of this insulator. Now you can see it is near about 15 electron volt, the forbidden energy gap, that means the gap between valence band and the conduction band. But in case of a this one, you can see that this is the energy band description of a conductor. Now in case of a conductor, you can see that this part, that means from starting from here to here, it has been shown clearly in this diagram. You see over there, you just hold on. So this part, so Just to hold on. Now you see this part from here to here. This part is your conduction band, and this part is your valence band. Okay. Now here we can see that there is a overlapping of this valence band and the conduction band with each other. Okay. So overlapping of this thing, and we can observe in this case. Okay. Now, when there is a overlapping of this valence band and the conduction band, then the free electrons, whatever is available in the valence band, it can be easily going towards this conduction band, and we are getting the plenty of free electrons in this conduction band. So we can get the material or the metal or the solid particular whatever we are concerning, that is a pure conductor. So pure conductor, we can see the very easy example, a very lucid example of a pure conductor is your copper, aluminium, gold, platinum, all are the pure conductor. But in the semiconductor, what we see in next slide, you see in a semiconductor, the gap between this valence band and the conduction band, if you see the forbidden energy gap, it is nearly about 1 electron volt. So in this case, what is happening in the semiconductor, almost it has the full valence band, that means the plenty of electrons are there in the valence band, but almost empty in the conduction band, that means there is no free electrons in the conduction band, and we can see very small energy gap between the valence and the conduction band. So very small energy gap between energy gap of 1 electron volt between this valence band and the conduction band. So this is the case what is happening in case of a semiconductor. But in this case, you see, therefore, the semiconductor virtually behaves as an insulator in low temperature. Now, what is happening in case of a low temperature? What we are observing in a low temperature, it is act purely as an insulator. But when we are going to increase the temperature, and certainly what is happening sometimes in room temperature also. Later on, we will discuss in details. That means about 1 electrons for 10 to the power 10 atoms cross over the conduction band. That means some free electrons. And what is the quantity of the free electrons? Only 1 electron for 10 to the power 10 atom. This can easily overcome this barrier and can jump from this valence band to the conduction band. So when it is happening, that means it is happening only when the temperature is increasing. Okay, when the temperature is increasing, sometimes it is also happening in room temperature also. So room temperature, that means in ambient temperature, what is the standard one? In that case also, some of the free electrons, and the quantity is now only 1 electrons for 10 to the power 10 atom can jump from the valence band to the conduction band. Now, if you somehow increase the temperature, more valence electrons pass over the conduction band, and the conductivity increases. That means when there is a plenty of electrons is there in the conduction band, then what will happen? So it will be there, and it will increase the conductivity of this semiconductor. Okay. That means with the rise of temperature, the conductivity of the semiconductor increases, and now this semiconductor will now just behave like a conductor. So now the semiconductor has some this type of peculiar characteristics. That means you can see for a room lower temperature, it is just working as an insulator because no free electrons is available to jump from the valence band to the conduction band. But when the temperature increases, sometimes in room temperature also, we can get some free electrons, and this is the number of electrons is quantity is 1 out of these 10 to the power 10 atoms can jump from the valence band to the conduction band, and certainly the conductivity increases, and as well as when you increase the temperature, the conductivity increases furthermore, and the the semiconductor is just acting like a or behaving like a conductor. So now we can see for a semiconductor we have the negative temperature coefficient of resistance, isn't it? Now in case of a normal conductor, what is happening if you try to analyze this one, a pure conductor, if you see, that means when we increase the temperature, what is happening, the resistance is also increases. That means that means it has a positive temperature coefficient of resistance for a pure conductor. But in case of a semiconductor, now you can see that means when you are increasing the temperature, the resistivity or the resistance of the semiconductor decreases. That means the conductivity increases. So this gives us some peculiar properties of a semiconductor. Now, if you can see, that means semiconductor. Now we can define, or we have to define the semiconductor. Now, a semiconductor is a substance which has a resistivity, and the resistivity lies in between 10 to the power minus 4 to 0.5 ohm meter, in between the conductor and the insulators. And the examples are given in germanium as germanium, silicon, selenium, carbon, etc. Okay, so these are the pure semiconductors. So semiconductors, how we are defining the semiconductor? So it has been defined in terms of resistivity, and resistivity lies in between 10 to the power minus 4 to 0.5 ohm meter. But we can see in some example that we by only this resistivity, we cannot particularly accurately define what is semiconductor or what not. That means in this given table, you can see, sorry, that means you can see in this given table we have the four number of substances: copper, germanium, glass, and nichrome. But copper, we can see the resistivity of copper is this one, 1.7 10 to the minus 8 ohm meter. That means the resistivity is very less. That's why the copper is the pure conductor, or it is a good conductor. But in a glass, you can see this is an insulator whose conductivity, whose resistivity lies, it will be value is 9 into 10 to the power 11 ohm meter. But in case of a nichrome is what? Because most of you are staying at hostel, and sometimes you are using the heater in the hostel, and the heater, you have seen, you are using some coil, and that coil is called the nichrome coil. So nichrome is mainly the resistance material, and it is basically used in heater. Okay, so nichrome, you can say nichrome, basically it is a resistance material. And you can see the resistance of this resistivity of this nichrome is 10 to the power minus 4. Just hold on. (10 to the power minus 4), and but as per the definition of the semiconductor, it is falling in between this 10 to the power minus 4 and 0.5 ohm meter. But we cannot ascertain or cannot tell that this nichrome is a semiconductor material, because nichrome is always a resistance material. So another information I want to share, that by comparing the resistivity of, so this has been told over there. Now if we try to make one alloy, that means the whose resistivity falls in between this range, that means 10 to the power 4 to then 0.5 ohm meter, but we cannot say that material as a semiconductor also. Okay, are you getting my point? If we try to make one alloy, and somehow the alloy, the resistivity of that alloy, we are trying to manufacture or try to fabricate that to the range in between this 10 to the power minus 4 to 0.5, then also we cannot say that that particular alloy is a semiconductor. Okay, so it is very we are getting some peculiar properties of this semiconductor. So what are the different properties? So this is the first property: the resistivity of the semiconductor is less than an insulator but more than a conductor. So this is the very basic one. That means it should lies in between the conductor and the insulator. Semiconductors have negative temperature coefficient of resistance, that is resistance of the semiconductor decreases with the increase in temperature and vice versa. So for example, germanium is actually an insulator at low temperature, but it becomes a good conductor at high temperature. So that we have seen. That means this is defined, or this has been clarified by using the energy band description. Now another number 3, you can see the another property is when a pure suitable metallic impurity. This is very important. So metallic impurity means what are the things we are going to add. That is, one is called the arsenic, or it may be gallium, or it may be indium. Later on we will see. If it is added to a pure semiconductor, then its current conducting properties change appreciably. That means if we add some impurity to a pure semiconductor, so pure semiconductor means which are the pure semiconductors? That is the germanium and silicon. So if we add some impurities to this pure semiconductor, that the impurities are, say, maybe your arsenic, gallium, or indium, the current conducting properties of the semiconductor change appreciably. That means it increases, and this is the most important property, and we are going to discuss in details in later on. So these pure semiconductors are mainly known as the what? That is called the intrinsic semiconductor, and the semiconductor which has been made by adding some impurity, that is the arsenic, gallium, indium, something like that, that is called the extrinsic semiconductor. So now we are getting the two new terms. One is called the intrinsic semiconductor, and another is called the extrinsic semiconductor. So after that we are going to start this bond in the semiconductor. So what are the different types of bond is available, we are going to discuss. So in this case we are mainly see, that is, there are mainly one called, this is covalent bond. That is, we are very much interested in this topic regarding this discussion of the semiconductor. And here in this covalent bond, now you can see this is the germanium atom, and it is making the covalent bond with nearing germanium or neighboring germanium atom. And how we are making the covalent bond? Now in the germanium, you see the atomic number of the germanium, it has the atomic number of 32. If you try to recall the atomic number of germanium, it is equal to 32. So if you see the electron distribution in different orbit, so we can say that germanium has this 4 number of electrons in the outermost orbit, isn't it? If you try to recall, the germanium has the 4 number of electrons in the outermost orbit. Now, if you see the middle one, the central 2, 3, 4, 5 atoms are there. All are the neighboring atoms. Now, if you see the central atom, now the central atom in the outermost orbit, that is called the valence electrons. So there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 valence electrons, and it is also sharing or also using the electrons of neighboring atoms to make a covalent bonds, and these have the 8 number of electrons in the outermost orbit. So how we are making? Now it has the 4 own electrons in the outermost orbit, and remaining 4. So these electrons may be the electron of this atom. This is germanium atom. This is the 4th atom, and this has been shared by this central atom. This atom has maybe these electrons of this neighboring atom, and it has been shared by this germanium atom. And for this case, this may be your another atom, an electron of this neighboring atom, and it has been shared by the central atom. And in this case also we are getting the same phenomena. So now we can see the central atom is making the covalent bond with the neighboring germanium atom by sharing or by tendency to each germanium atom to have 8 electrons in the last orbit, because it has the 4 number of electrons in the last orbit, but it is trying to get the last orbit by fulfilling the last orbit by 8 electrons by sharing or bargaining the electrons from the neighboring atom, and this is called the covalent bond in case of a germanium atom. So this is the bonding diagram, and this is the covalent bonds among the germanium atom. Now in this case, covalent bonds are formed by sharing the valence electrons. In the formation of this covalent bond, each valence electron of an atom form a direct bond with the valence electrons of the adjacent atom. In the other word, the valence electrons are associated with a particular atoms, and in this case we can see the valence electrons in the semiconductors are not free. So that I have told you earlier in the previous thing, that in the whatever electrons is there in the valence band, this is not free, this is the fixed in this band, and somehow it has been get free when we are getting some thermal agitation from in the room temperature, or if you are applying some electrical, the electrons are getting free, and it can be easily jump from the valence band to the conduction band. But practically it is not free in the atom, so it is making some covalent bond with the neighboring germanium atom. So now this is the commonly used semiconductors. So commonly used semiconductors, we have the germanium and silicon, and now we can see the energy band description of the germanium and the silicon. Now in case of germanium, you see this is the semiconductor where we are getting the conduction band. This is called the valence band. This is some third band and the second band. So now you see that the forbidden energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band is only 0.7 electron volt. Okay, and in case of a silicon is nearly 1.1 electron volt. So that I have told earlier that in case of a semiconductor, the energy band, from the energy band discussion we have already discussed earlier, that is the band gap between, or the forbidden energy between the conduction band and the valence band is always near about less than 1 electron volt, or something higher, little bit higher than 1 electron volt. That means it is remains within the 1 electron volt. So this is the energy band description of this this semiconductor. That means the commonly used semiconductor, that is one is called your germanium, another is called silicon. So beside this semiconductor, commonly used semiconductor, now we are getting the another conception that is called the Hole current. So what is the Hole current? That is in a room temperature. What is happening? We have some covalent bond that is available in the semiconductor, and if somehow it breaks, then we are getting some free electrons. When this free electrons is there, so there will be some vacant place, and due to this vacant place, it leaves a vacancy, and these missing electrons in the covalent bond, and this missing electrons is also called a hole, and this is mainly positively charged, and this will produce the Hole current. So in the semiconductors, mainly we have two types of current. One is called the electron current, another is called the Hole current. So how this hole is there? Because in a semiconductor we have some covalent bond. Generally covalent bond is not detachable, but somehow due to the thermal agitation or electric field, if some of the free electrons is available, then these free electrons are there, and it will be try to jump from the valence band to covalent bond. When it is jumps from the valence band, and it will make, or it will leave some vacancy. Where it will make some vacancy? In the valence band, isn't it? And the missing electrons is producing some positively charged conducting ion, that is called the electron, and this is called the positively charged current, and it will produce the positively charged current. That means for one electron set free, one hole is created. Are you getting my point? So if the one electron is there, that means electron means which electron? The free electron. Then it will produce one hole. So therefore thermal energy creates the whole electron pairs, and there being as many holes as many free electrons. That means when we are producing one free electron by thermal agitation or by applying some electron field, electrical field across the semiconductor, so we will undoubtedly producing a free, that means a free. So and basically in a semiconductor we have the presence of both this current, that is the electron current as well as the hole current. Okay. So today will be this much, whatever we have discussed. So next day we will continue with that. So if you have any confusion, any question, you can ask directly. If you have any confusion or a question. No question at all. Okay. So so listen carefully. You do one thing. That means for giving the attendance of your class. So I will send one message to the chat box. So after getting the message, after getting the message, you will write on your chat box that is present. Okay, only once. একবারই present লিখে send করবে. At first I have to write, send the message to the chat box. After that you send your attendance by sending present once only. একবারে বেশি কেউ প্রেজেন্ট পাঠাবে না। ওকে, ইউ জাস্ট হোল্ড অন। Now you can send your attendance by sending present once, all of you. কারো কোনো কনফিউশন থাকলে you can ask, otherwise you send the attendance by sending present, all of you. Okay, all of you have completed your attendance. Okay. So I want to give you another information.